want to talk about this story going on at UNC. There's something happening at UNC Chapel Hill that I think intelligent Black people want to talk about. Some of you have already been talking about it. There's a Black woman there by the name of Nikole Hannah-Jones. I do not know Nikole. She is apparently an expert in critical race theory or some similar topic. She also was the creator of the 1619 Project, which Alicia and I listened to from the New York Times. She did a good job with that. And they keep denying her tenure. And so what I want to do is actually talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it from a B1 perspective. I'm not going to talk about it from a Black liberal perspective because I'm not a Black liberal. I'm not a Black conservative. I'm not into that Democrat Republican stuff. I'm really going to talk about it from a B1 point of view, which means that we can support this sister, but also provide ways and perspectives to look at this without us sitting around waiting for white people to treat us better. So get comfortable, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get started right now. All right. So here's the deal. All right. So basically this story, and I'm going to pull it up. I got it around here somewhere. Let me see if I can pull it up here on the computer. What's up, everybody? How you doing? Let's see. I see Maria and DDS and Oshun and Alan and Stymie and everybody else. Also, everybody on Instagram, what's up? My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. If you are Black and intelligent, follow me on Instagram, or there's my Twitter as well. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter if you're intelligent and Black. If you're not intelligent and Black, then you should probably not follow me because I'm going to piss you off and you're going to get on my nerves. I'm going to have to block you. So stupid people, stay away. Smart people that want to be smarter, you are welcome to come to the platform. So here's the deal. Here's what is going on with Nikole Hannah-Jones. So Nikole Hannah-Jones basically is an award-winning scholar who has done some really extraordinary work, particularly in the area of, I would argue, critical race theory. It appears that that's what her main area is. She's also won a Pulitzer. She got a Pulitzer for her work on the 1619 Project at the New York Times. She deserved that Pulitzer. I think that the work was good. I checked out the 1619 Project. I liked it. I mean, it did a good job. It's not Dr. Claude Anderson level, to be honest with you, but it's good, right? It was good. It was important. It was significant. So why am I talking about this sister today? Well, basically, the racial conflict at UNC that's happening right now has to do with the fact that for some reason, despite the fact that this sister has won awards, she's probably more accomplished than 99.9% of all the white people she's ever going to meet. She has done all the things. She checked all the boxes. She played by the rules. They still decided that she's not qualified. Now, I want to kind of reflect on that a little bit and really give you another point of view. I'm not going to go the standard route. You guys know I'm not a mainstream guy. I don't want to be mainstream. I think the mainstream media is not that smart. I want us to be to go above and beyond. Mainstream media is kind of how you got to where you are right now. Mainstream thinking has not gotten us any further than where white people want us to go. So this is not going to be a mainstream discussion. This is going to be kind of a breakdown for intelligent Black people on what's happening here. And whether you support the sister or not is up to you. The issue is not so much her. It's really about us. It's about us as a community and how to kind of contextualize these things as they happen in a way that's going to allow us to be smarter when we're done. So as we get started, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up. And thank you, Duel, for being a moderator and helping me deal with the trolls because we want to kick out the crappy kids so that all the smart kids can learn. So by the way, the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, that's where my podcast is on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, you want to listen to me in your car, just go to the drboycebreakdown.com or look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown on Spotify. That's where you can find this podcast. So Alicia and I were curious about what was going on with this sister, Nikole Hannah-Jones. As you know, my wife, Alicia, my new bride, my beautiful Black woman that I have next to me, my queen, and I'm proud of it. She is a full professor of social work. And she went through the whole process. We both went through the whole process of tenure. I was denied tenure. I went through a big fight with Syracuse University. I'm more of an outsider. I was always the kid who colored outside the lines. I was a kid who would end up in detention. I was a kid who never really played by the rules. I never did. When I was a little boy, my mother used to say, "Boy, your mouth will either make you great or get you killed. I'm curious to see which one." So so I understand why they didn't want me around. If I were white, I wouldn't want me around either because I'm smarter than you are and I'm going to challenge you at every available turn and I'm going to outdo you to the point where you're going to become another hater. Just like, just so you know, haters are a sign of success. So the smarter you are and the more you're okay with that, the more haters you will eventually have. Now, Alicia was a little bit different. She's light-skinned. In case y'all ain't seen, she's light-skinned. Now, she's a sister now. She grew up, poor. She grew up in Gary, Indiana, which at that time was the murder capital of the universe. Like literally there were no more people per capita being killed anywhere outside of Gary. Like Gary was the #1 murder capital of America, believe it or not. And but she worked through that. You know, her mama was a teacher. Her daddy was a college professor, just like me. I think that's why she probably preferred to marry a college professor. She didn't want a basketball player or whatever. She wanted a smart guy, and I appreciate that. And she went on to go through the tenure process. She got tenure, and her father coached her and helped her out with that. And then she became a full professor, and she's won awards. And she was the first Black woman at her university actually to win. What was it? I forgot what that prize was. It was a fellowship, Fulbright fellowship. That's right. That's why we went to Guyana a couple years ago. Now, why do I give you this background? Well, because because we are an academic couple, we pay attention when things happen in academia. Usually, and we have different perspectives. She's right there still in the middle of the bloodbath. At her university, they literally only have one black male on the entire faculty. And I know this brother, and I really like him. Our birthday's on the same day. And they put him through hell. In fact, there was a time where a white female, anonymously accused him of making him feel uncomfortable, right? And because these universities have these crazy Title IX rules, which sometimes they make sense, but sometimes they're just terrible. Basically, they couldn't tell him who his accuser was. They didn't tell him what he was accused of, but they did tell him he was under investigation, right? And this was a cloud over his head for an entire year. And I remember him expressing the stress. He said, Doc, I need your help because this is so unfair. Like, I don't even know who is accusing me. I don't know what I'm being accused of. And literally it turned out that basically in class, he'd made a joke. One of the students was pregnant and they were going to have a baby shower for her. And he made a joke and he said, "So when's the baby hatch?" or something like that. And apparently that made her uncomfortable. He didn't even know this lady, had never been alone with her, none of that. But they literally put a scar on his career because of that, right? So this is the kind of shenanigans, the kind of ridiculousness that happens in academia. And that's on top of the fact that he was the only black male on the entire campus. A lot of these universities that you put your money into, you give them billions and billions and billions of black dollars. That's where your money's going. That's why your money's disappeared. In fact, let me ask you a question, real quick question. If we're intelligent black people here, most of y'all probably went to college, at least for a little while. How many of you are not done paying your student loans? Give me a guess if your student loans are still sitting there and they're massive and scary and you still haven't paid them off. Some of y'all are probably in your 50s and haven't paid your student loans yet, right? And you're not alone. Most black college graduates, half of the black people who graduated from college. Now, this is your talented 10th. These are the people that are supposed to be the ones that are going to lead you out of the wealth gap, right? Because they were trained by white people to do that. Yeah, right. White supremacist institutions are going to train you how to overcome white supremacy. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, white people are going to teach me how to compete with white people. It don't work that way, black folks. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you that. It don't work that way. LeBron will never teach the Detroit Pistons how to beat the Lakers. That's not his job. Right. But if they stupid enough to take classes from him, then he'll be glad to teach them. So you send your kids to these schools. They go deep in debt. They never get out of the debt. Black wealth is dropping. Black wealth is expected to drop to 0 by the year 2053. Wealth is my thing. That's what my PhD is in finance. So I know I can connect all the dots for you. I do this for you every day, several times a day. We talk a lot because I want you to pick up what I'm saying. And a lot of that black wealth is going towards student loans. What's happening is that your best and your brightest and your smartest are the ones who are going the most in debt. They also are the ones who are least capable of getting out of the debt because all they know how to do. I know many educated Negroes. I know lots of black folks with PhDs, JDs, MDs, BAs, BSs, and all kinds of letters behind their name that make them feel special as they go pick up their new Mercedes Benz and go get their nice little house in the suburbs and wear the $200, $300 suits, whatever. And many of them don't have any skill that goes beyond the ability to go and work for white people. That's it. They effectively, unfortunately, many of you, and I'm not making fun of you. I understand it. I totally get it. Many of us are trained as children to become high-paid slaves. Like we don't want to be broke slaves. We want to be high-paid slaves. And you're hired by these companies and institutions that don't hire. Maybe they'll pick one black person, right? And ignore the rest. And you don't understand why you're in this weird little rat trap. You don't understand why you're on this hamster wheel, why you're running your ass off and you ain't going nowhere, right? Why do you think Why do you think the gap in black wealth has not changed pretty much since 1968? Why do you think black wealth continues to drop and the gap continues to grow? It's because you're solving it in the wrong way. Your best and your brightest your fastest runners are running in the wrong direction. Your fastest runners on the relay team are getting the baton and they're running up in the stands, or they're running backward, and everybody else is going north. They're going south. That's why Black wealth is not growing. Am I right or am I right? Give me a yes in the chat if you follow what I'm saying. I'm connecting the dots here. This goes back to Hannah Nicole Jones's situation. But again, you know me, I don't talk about, they have a saying that says, great minds talk about ideas, mediocre minds talk about events, small minds talk about people. So my goal is not to be a small mind. I'm not going to talk about a person. Hannah Nicole Jones, I wish her the very best. I support this sister 100%. I hope she gets everything she deserves. But I'm not here to talk about a person. I'm not. Also, they say mediocre minds talk about events. I'll talk a little bit. I'll give you the story about what UNC is doing to this poor Black woman, because that's important, but that's not the goal. I'm not here to just talk about an event. I'm here to talk about ideas. I'm here to have us sort of rise up to that higher dimensional frequency where we can kind of look down on the situation, right? Everybody else is thinking one dimensional, two dimensional. I want you thinking fifth dimensional, so you can see the entire picture. So you can play chess, not checkers. You see, chess players are higher dimensional thinkers. You must be a higher dimensional thinker to understand how a system works, because a system operates on higher dimensions, meaning that they're moving levers and variables that you're not even aware of. So is this racism? Yeah. Is this white people being mean? Yeah, that's what they do. They tend to run their institutions the way they see fit. In fact, let me ask you a little question. This is not in any way to defend the egregious behavior of UNC. I would never send my child there. I would totally kick them in the ass for the way they're treating this Black woman. But I want to ask you a question. If you're running a business and it's your family business, let's say, or you're running it out of your house, or you built it, or whatever the case may be, are you going to run it according to your value system or according to somebody else's value system? Like, a lot of y'all got Black-owned businesses right now, and you're thinking about who you want to hire. Are you more likely to hire Black people or hire white people? If you're getting a promotion, let's say you run a Black church, or you're running, a Black hair salon, and you got, cousins and homeboys and friends from the hood that are Black like you, that understand you, that understand the culture and the institution, and they want a promotion. Are you more likely to promote the people that you understand, the people that you know that you can relate to? Or are you more likely to promote strangers from the outside who are going to challenge you, give you, kick you in the ass at every turn, that you don't know, you don't trust? Their values are completely different from yours. Who are you going to promote? Now, this is not in any way to defend the behavior of these people who are clearly doing what they're going to do. It's to really help you understand the realities of life. When I read the story of Hannah Nicole Jones, what I saw was that she was basically denied tenure by a board of directors at UNC. Most of these people were Republicans. So her white liberal allies, none of them are on the board of trustees, from what I understand. 10 of them are white males. So if you have an institution where the defining body of that institution is predominantly white male, then that institution is going to reflect the value systems and the perspectives of white men. Is it right? No, it's not right. But life ain't fair, right? Because if it were run by Black women, then the institution will reflect the values of Black women. An institution created, the Black Business School, for example, which is an institution we created. We have 140,000 students worldwide. We trained over 1 million Black people how to buy their first share of stock. Well, this institution, I tell you guys straight up, point blank period, when we walk through the door, I say we are B1. What does B1 mean? B1 means that we solve our own problems before we solve anybody else's problems. B1 means that the Black community and Black wealth is your number one priority. B1 means that our goal, and the reason we exist, is to make sure the Black community is number one. So it doesn't mean that you have to be Black to be here. We're like UNC. You ain't got to look like us to come in. Come on in. But we got to be on the same page. If I go to Notre Dame University, that school was created to support the Catholic community. It is a Catholic school. So I can't come in there saying, well, y'all need to let go of Catholicism because it's demonic. I can't do that, because they're going to kick my ass out of there. Right. So I'm not telling you that it's OK what they're doing. I'm not telling you, I'm not defending these people. I'm not saying, oh, yeah, they're all good people and this was the right thing to do. What I'm saying is that it is delusional, absolutely delusional for us as Black people on any level to think that we can ever go into an institution that was created in the image of whites and think that our values are going to be seen equivalent to whites. When Harvard University, one of the founders of critical race theory was a guy that I really liked. His name was Derek something. He was at Harvard. He was a law professor. Derek, can't remember his last name, but I loved him. He was really smart. And I remember one of the things that they said when they tried to deny his tenure was they said, we can't find any qualified Black people. We can't find any qualified Black people anywhere. And obviously that's ridiculous, right? Just this idea that they would sort of say like, well, because we searched the whole world high and low. Now we've had thousands of white men who've done this job, but we searched the whole world high and low, searched under every rock, every hood, and we can't find one black person smart enough to do this job, right? That's a type of white supremacy, right? That's this idea that somehow you're so special that none of us can meet your standard. And the trick you fall for is that if they pick one and say, okay, well, that one Negro made the standard, you get all excited because you've been your whole life, you're trained to sort of want the validation from white folks. We're actually going to talk about that in a minute, and I'm going to break that down for you in a minute. But that's what's going on, right? And here's the thing: I thought about this, right? And I said maybe they're right in an awkward way. Maybe the reason you think that there's not a black person anywhere qualified to do this job is because part of your qualification list includes being a white man. That part of the way to be qualified to do a job done mostly by white men is that you must be just like them, right? You have to think like them. You got to maybe look like them. Remember, my wife is a light-skinned black woman. She's a sister. She got those black woman curves, and she grew up in the hood. But we both know that there was a privilege she received. She got the Barack Obama privilege, right? If either one of them looked like Wesley Snipes, neither one of them would have got the job. They know this. She knows this. She talks about this, right? So even looking white gives you more connection to white people. That's true all over the world. You go to India, lighter Indians are higher up on the social ladder. If you go to Africa, they do the same thing. Brazil, oh my God, have you seen the way they treat the dark-skinned people in Brazil? It's terrible. They're like, we got 40 million black people. We just want to hide them under the rug. Like, it's crazy, right? So this whiteness, this sort of, so what occurs in many institutions that are run by whites is that you have this idea that being closer to whiteliness is closer to godliness. That part of being qualified means being more like them. It means being closer to them, looking more like them, talking like them, believing what they believe, etc. And but obviously you're always going to be second fiddle if you play that game, right? If you play a game that is designed for you to lose, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose. If you play a game that's designed against your strength and it plays on your weakness, then you're going to be weak. You know, I knew a black woman that was on the faculty with me at Syracuse back when I was raising hell at Syracuse University. She was high yellow. I think her daddy was white. I think her daddy was German or something. And she really played the game hard. I mean, she really went along with that program. She went in that whole get along thing where she fit in so much better than me. Me, when I was there, all my friends were black. To this day, I don't have that many friends. I don't know why I'm such an antisocial son of a bitch, but I just don't. I connect with people, with deep, meaningful people in my life, and I can't connect with everybody. I don't like shallow, superficial interactions. I have a few friends, and that's it. And at that time, so even back then, I didn't have that many friends. I didn't trust the folks that were there. There were three of us, three black professors on the entire business school. We had 100 faculty, three of us were black. It was terrible. It was like being surrounded. And what she did was she took a strategy that she thought was going to work. This is the one that you get trained to do. She distanced herself from us. There were two black men and one black woman. She told me, she said that at that time, she said, I'm distancing myself from you because I don't want people to think I only hang out with the black people. So she did all the things that you would expect would work. Like, I really thought this whole being white thing was really going to work out for her, right? So she would go to like their kids' birthday parties. She knew where they lived. I didn't know where they lived. I didn't want them to know where I lived, right? I didn't know the names of their kids. I didn't know if they had kids. I didn't know if they were married. I knew nothing, right? I didn't care. I was there to do my job. That was it, right? And but she did all the right things. She really connected and bonded. And I was like, wow, okay, maybe I need to learn. Maybe I'm the one who's crazy, right? Because I'm young at that time. Now I'm more sure of myself, than I was back then. This is 20 years ago. I didn't know. I was like, well, maybe this is what you do. Maybe this whole being white thing is the way to be successful. Boys, that's your problem. You need to learn how to be a white man. So I watched her, right, form these strong connections with these white people. And here was what's so funny, right? So she had distanced herself from me. I hadn't talked to her for years, right? And I saw her in the elevator, and it was like, hi, how are you? And she's like, hey, how are you? And we're very quiet, polite, whatever, right? And I get off the elevator, and I walked to my office. And as I walk into my office, or she gets off the elevator right behind me. And I'm like, why is she getting off the elevator behind me? She's on the 5th floor. I'm on the 4th floor. And then I went around the corner of my office. She follows me around the corner of my office. And then I go in, and I'm about to shut the door, and she puts her hand up and stops the door and wants to come in. And I'm like, okay, all right, bitch. Like, since she had been such a bitch to me, she was mean. I was like, what do you want? Why are you here? And she, you know, I'm joking, but that at that time, I'm not kidding. That's what I was thinking. So she walks in and she's like, Boyce, let me tell you what these white people are doing to me. And I was like, oh, really? What? Tell me. And basically, they were treating her like crap. They had denied her tenure, just like Nicole Hannah-Jones. She had checked all the boxes, did all the right work, did everything she was supposed to do, and still she was about to get fired. And I said, oh, how the tables have turned. My, how the chickens do come home to roost now, don't they? But look, we in the same boat, ain't we? You know, and now you want to come talk to Boyce. Now the radical black man that you avoided is suddenly an ally, right? And I totally get that. And I'm not making fun of her, but you know what I'm talking about. Where you have those black folks that really are indoctrinated into this fool's gold. They have been trained to chase waterfalls. Y'all know my cousins in TLC. They have that really good song, Don't Go Chasing Waterfall. She's T-Boz. Her name's Tiana Watkins. Our grandfathers are brothers. Her grandfather's name is Sam. My grandfather's name is Matt. I don't think Matt and Sam talked for like 30 years old. It was actually over money. I think one of them loaned the other one money and they didn't talk. So I don't know her personally. But anyway, so she had the song, Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. Well, a lot of black folks were raised to chase waterfalls. We're raised to chase the waterfalls of white supremacy. We're raised to believe that if we play by the rules, if we check all the boxes, if we fit right in and do what we're supposed to do, then we will be rewarded just like everybody else. We will get what the white boy gets. We get the same degree. We'll get the same job. We'll get the same salary. We'll get the same promotions. And what I have learned, after reading books like Powernomics from Dr. Claude Anderson, which everybody should read, stuff like this, is I've learned that just ain't the way the world works. That is not the way the world motherfucking works. That is not how life works. And so I helped the sister out. I forgave. I wasn't going to hold a grudge or anything, because sometimes people just don't know yet. Sometimes they haven't been slapped in the face with the Negro stick to understand what we're dealing with and what we're up against. So when I see things like this go down, I really kind of feel bad for people that are in this sort of endless loop of white supremacy, where they constantly believe that if you beg white people long enough, eventually they're going to come around and start doing the right thing. This false idea that if I really, really, really prove to them that I'm good enough, that I'm gonna be successful. And that's a dangerous game to play, because even when you win, all of us can't win. So this one woman getting tenure, it's not like that's going to create 20,000 jobs for black people. That's going to create one job for one person at one university. The University of North Carolina does not have the capacity to hire all the qualified black scholars that exist in this country. So that gets me to the next point. And before I move on, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. The URL for the Black Wealth Bootcamp is right there. If you're interested in this kind of thing, I designed it specifically for people that want to get off the corporate plantation. So if you want to go take a look, feel free to go to blackwealthbootcamp.com. It's really popular. Everybody loves it. Take a second, hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to whatever channel you're on, and put a B1 in the chat to let me know that you have done that. B1 is our philosophy. B1 means we put our community at the top of the priority list. We solve our own problems before we solve everybody else's. We also believe that by the year 2070, this is called Project 2070, I believe that in 50 years, Black people can actually lead the earth on asset acquisition, on wealth building, and all the things that matter when it comes to economic competition. So that's my plan. That's the legacy. I put that in my estate plan, actually. So here's the deal. So when you talk about this situation with Nicole Hannah-Jones being denied tenure, I think obviously she deserves it, right? Obviously she's done everything she's supposed to do. She's probably more qualified than 99.9% of the faculty at North Carolina. It looks like she's got something that those of us in the more Black nationalist space don't have. She's got these white liberal allies in the institution who are going to help her fight the good fight, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's what she needs, and I support that. Now, the issue with that, though, here's the problem with the white liberal ally thing. This is where I have an issue with this. White liberal allies are kind of a funny thing, because unfortunately, this liberal space comes with a type of white supremacy that is basically just sort of an alternative to the previous white supremacy. So it's kind of like if you are eating at McDonald's every day and you say, God, this food is so unhealthy, it's going to kill me. And somebody says, that's okay, just come to Burger King, right? if you go to Burger King, you're not really getting healthy food. You're just getting a flame broiled heart disease over, stove fried heart disease, whatever you want to call it, whatever McDonald's, they fry their burgers, whatever. I worked at both of them for a little while, so I think I remember how they made the burgers different, right? But it's still a cheeseburger and it's still going to kill you. It's still not, it's not like you're eating health food. It's not like you own your own restaurant. It's none of that. You're just getting a different version of what you had before. And so the thing about white liberals that I challenge a little bit is that I don't doubt that they aren't good people, that they aren't trying to be good people in their own way. But here's the thing. Y'all been rolling with the white liberals since forever, right? In the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, leftists started jumping, socialist, communist, Marxists started jumping in and fueling and supporting some of the movements in the Black community. The Black Panther movement was heavily Marxist. A lot of good ideas in Marxism, actually. I encourage you to go study it. They have legitimate critiques of capitalism. But the problem is that when you do that, when you're aligning yourself with this bigger battle between the left and the right, you can find that your community gets left behind and actually destroyed and divided by these affiliations. It's almost like if I live in a neighborhood and I want to get more protection, so I go to the Bloods for protection. Well, now I've taken a problem and made it into a bigger problem, because rather than dealing with the one bully I had who might have been a Crip, now I got to fight every Crip that I see. And now being a Crip or a Blood becomes bigger than simply me versus the bully, right? So Black folks, because you felt bullied, many of our people jumped in and we aligned ourselves with some of these broader battles with the socialists and the Democratic Party and the liberals. And now we get so caught up in the Democrat-Republican divide that it's destroyed our community. Similar to how that same divide destroyed Vietnam. The United States dropped more bombs on Vietnam during the Vietnam War than all the countries dropped on all the other countries in World War II combined, right? So that whole little country of Vietnam, the tiny little place where you had cousins and friends and neighbors that were working together to build Vietnam, they stopped doing that, and so they could turn and fight each other over whether or not you were a communist or I was a capitalist, right? And that divide was unnecessary. It was unhealthy, right? What they should have done is they should have said, stay the hell out. We got this. We don't want to align with any of you. We are V1. The same way I tell you guys to be B1, they should have been V1. Ho Chi Minh, the leader of Vietnam at that time, should have said, y'all all stay out of our damn country. We will solve our own problems. We will build our own community. We're going to do it on our own. We want freedom. That's all we want, right? But instead, they got war and chaos and destruction, and it was terrible, right? So with Black folks, I'm not a big fan. I know that we are tempted to jump in with these so-called allies. I have worked with these allies. They are not all bad people. But the problem with aligning with the allies is this. Here's the deal. Let me ask you a question. Has the wealth gap between whites and blacks shrank even an iota since 1968? Give me a yes or no. Has the wealth gap shrank at all? Has it gotten better? Yes, if it's gotten better. No, if it has not. Or better yet, in any significant way. Give me a yes or no. The answer is no. Right? So you had all this civil rights legislation, these white liberals supposedly supporting you, and nothing's really gotten better. Right? It's pretty much the same, right? You're kind of in the toilet. A lot of cities that are run by Democrats are just garbage. Doesn't mean the Republicans are better. We're not saying that at all, but we're definitely saying the Democrats, if they are our saviors, they're not doing a very good job at saving anything. Two, has anybody heard, a lot of you guys were fighting each other, ready to kill your neighbors over Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Has Joe Biden, he's talking about Black Wall Street and the symbolism of it, right? He's mentioning Black Wall Street. Has Joe Biden said the word reparations? Hardly at all. Has he even talked about systematic reparations to the tune of $14-15 trillion that Black people are owed for what's happened to us over the last 400 years? And I imagine Hannah Nicole, did I say Hannah Nicole Jones? What's her name again? Is it Nicole Hannah Jones? Nicole Hannah Jones. I imagine Nicole Hannah Jones would get this, right? She created the 1619 Project for the New York Times, and I think it's great to commemorate the abuse that was done to Black people. Biden did that in his speech recently. He talked about the terrible things they did to us. Now you must actually repair these things. Now you got to write a goddamn check. If you are doing a whole lot of talking and no action, then that means nothing to me, because talk is cheap. Talk is free. Anybody can run their mouth. A lot of y'all got fast talking Negroes in your own damn family. You got, that cousin like, yeah, baby, I'm gonna buy you a new car and then I'm gonna start a business and I'm gonna be somebody and blah, blah, blah. My my late father, I met my biological father just 2 times. And I remember he was like, well, one day I'm gonna get a Maserati, one day I'm gonna get a blah, blah, blah. And I was sitting there thinking, yeah, but today you don't seem to be doing much of nothing. Like, no disrespect to him, but I even at 14, 15 years old, I was like, you're doing a lot of talking for somebody who ain't doing nothing, right? So all that talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Stop talking to me. Stop telling me that you can empathize with my pain. I don't really care. Stop telling me that Black Lives Matter. I know my life matters. Stop telling me how bad it was and how terrible it was. We know that. We've agreed on that. Tell me how you are going to write that 10 damn check. Don't tell me how you're going to study whether or not you need to write a check. Clearly, you've already studied it. If you're talking about how terrible they treated us, if you're talking about what horrible thing they did to us, then, and again, Nicole Hannah-Jones did the 1619 Project. They do a very good job of documenting how terrible the world has been to Black people. She nailed it. They nailed it like boom, 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 nailed the coffin. Yeah, Black people got shattered on for 400 years. There is no dispute on any of that. Now it's time to cut the check. Now it's time to stop getting our approval because you're simply acknowledging what we went through. I don't need you to acknowledge that anymore. I need you to write the damn check. I don't need your sympathy. So these white liberal allies, unfortunately, what that does is that makes us sort of think somehow that by getting people to acknowledge what we've gone through, or getting them to feel sorry for us, or getting them to say that they're our friends, that somehow life is better for us. And I don't think it's better. I don't wake up in the morning saying, how can I get approval from my white neighbors? I like my neighbors, actually. Some of them are white. They're nice people, right? But I don't need his damn approval. His approval is not going to help me feed my kids. His approval is not going to help me run my business. His approval should not make me feel like a better man. That's crazy. That's a mental illness. When a man needs approval from another man for him to feel like he's worthy. You are worthy. You are good enough. So the other thing that's interesting is about the white liberal allies is that if you notice, there's not a lot of effort to do things for or to support initiatives that create massive amounts of Black independence, right? It's more so like they all rally around one Black person. So they're rallying around this one professor who represents the elite. Not that that's a bad thing. I think it's fine. We need professors. We need our scholars. Hopefully our scholars will engage the community instead of sitting up in some white man's university writing research papers that nobody's ever going to read. Like you're not helping the community. You think you are, because you've impressed 12 white people, but that's really not helping. Just so you know, no disrespect. I get it. I wrote a ton of research papers. I wrote more solo author research papers probably than anybody in the history of the finance department at Syracuse University. And not one of those research papers has been read by anybody. And in fact, let me give you yes or no. How many of you have ever read any of the peer-reviewed research papers that I wrote at Syracuse University? Give me a yes or no. Has anybody in here? I'm looking for one yes. Have you ever read, I'm talking about from top to bottom, any peer-reviewed research paper I've ever written during the time I was at Syracuse University? Anybody like want to read about the fine details of econometrics and and various forms of economic theory and the random walk hypothesis? Anybody read? No. You hear me because I'm here talking to you. You hear me because I'm the asshole who's crazy enough to get out here on the internet and deal with, all the chaos that's happening, all the people that throw darts, all the people that talk smack about my wife, all that stuff. That's okay. We're built for it. It's okay. Right. I'm dealing with that because I want to talk to you, because that's my way of trying to make a contribution, to talk to you and to do things for you. Right. I've employed dozens of Black people. We have supported institutions in our community. The Powernomics Corporation, Dr. Claude Anderson's joint, his Harvest Institute. We put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that institution because I learned that there's a difference between talking and doing things. And I also learned that there's a difference between going into a space and impressing white people and thinking somehow you've made a contribution to the Black community. That right there is a white supremacist concept, that somehow their opinions matter more than yours. That's something that I think a lot of scholars kind of get hip to, that slowly but surely, but the indoctrination is so deep that we don't even know that. So here's what our white liberal allies cannot do. We know what they can do, right? They can help elite Black people get jobs, right? We know that they can tell you that Black Lives Matter. We know that they can maybe get your legislation passed or something like that, which is fine. That's good. Keep doing that. What they cannot do is they cannot develop an industrial base for the entire Black community that consists of mechanisms that lead to the creation of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of jobs. What they cannot do is they cannot help you to rebuild and develop the institutions, many institutions that were lost during integration, when you started killing your own businesses, killing your own institutions, and letting them kill your own families. Also, you can be closer to white folks because you thought their ice was colder. You left your own neighborhood so you can go live next to them. You stopped supporting your own businesses so you could support theirs. You didn't want to support your own universities. You went to their universities. Even HBCUs, unfortunately, still have work to do in terms of actually developing and supporting the Black community. So also, they cannot save your families. They have their own ideologies. Unfortunately, many of these ideologies have defined Black men as nothing more than big balls of toxic masculinity. And some of their ideologies just don't fit with you. A lot of you don't fit and align with the LGBT agenda because some of it seems a little bit crazy when you got, when they bring in the kids to gay pride parades where some man has a penis strapped to his booty and your kid, your 5-year-old is supposed to see that, or your 8-year-old decides, I used to be a boy. I want to be a girl now because of course I know that because I'm 8, right? I'm 8. I know all about my sexuality because I'm 8, right? A lot of Black folks are like, that's crazy. Like Black folks are really good at identifying crazy. You don't have to go to college to know what crazy looks like. When you see it, you'd be like, that don't seem right. That don't make no sense. Don't do that to the baby, right? Like we're good at that, right? So the thing about it is that the white liberal package comes with a lot of value systems that many of us as Black people just do not align to. Doesn't mean we hate you. Doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean all that's terrible. It just means that might not be us. So what I would say is that when you're talking about, what's going on with all of this, with Nicole Hannah-Jones, who I hope she gets tenure. Even if she gets tenure, that's not necessarily a big step for Black folks. I think that's really important to understand. That's a big step for her. She'll get a good job. I personally will tell you that, when I went through my tenure battle, and I was going through it because I was pretty racially outspoken. It was pretty ugly. You can go Google it. Bill O'Reilly and a lot of people were saying terrible things about me. I didn't like it, right? Like sometimes it's like a bad relationship where you fall in love with some raggedy girl who doesn't respect you and doesn't like you, but then she dumps you and then you go find another girl and you're so happy with the new girl, then you realize that the old girl wasn't shit anyway, right? And that's kind of the story of my life. I was at Syracuse University, and at that time, all I really wanted was to be at that institution. All I wanted was for them to validate and acknowledge me and to give me the promotion, give me a raise, and make things better. When they refused to do that, when they broke my plate and said, get the hell out, we don't want your kind here, that was tough. I had to realign my thinking. I had to go out and pick up new skills, mostly focused on institutional development and entrepreneurship. And as a result of that, my life was 100 times better. Literally, if you go back exactly 1 decade ago in my life, my thinking was completely different. If I could go back in time and talk to myself a decade ago or 15 years ago, I would say, man, forget all of this. Like, walk away from this. This is garbage. Because since that time, since they rejected me, my life is markedly better. I make 1,000 times more money. I have 1,000 times more success. I have 1,000 times more impact. I have 1,000 times less stress because I'm around my people. Every day I wake up and I talk to Black people every single day. Every day I get up and I'm around Black people every day. I'm around my family. I'm around you. I'm secure and insulated. And these are Powernomics principles. You see, one of the things that Powernomics talks about is this idea that somehow you were convinced that you're safer when you leave your core, that when you leave a Black neighborhood and go to a white neighborhood, you're better off, right? When you leave, when you're not sort of trying to build in the Black community and you go work for a white company, you're better off. Or you go to a white university, you're better off. And I want you to look around. Look at how many Black folks go to white universities and work for white businesses. And many of them are in this chat, and it's okay. We love you too. I'm not dissing at all. I'm not dissing. I just want you to think about this. And look at how often we complain about how we're being treated. Look at how often we're sitting around wasting valuable time in our lives that could be spent building. We're spending most of the time complaining. Like, oh, it ain't right. Look at what they're doing. That ain't right. That ain't right. That ain't right. And I told you guys that a lot of the racism that you're experiencing, oppression is like a 1 or 2 dimensional kind of thing. Like you're operating on the ground floor when really, understanding the system is a 3rd and 4th dimensional thing. When you go, like you think about it, 2 dimensions is like horizontal and vertical, like, right? It's like people on the ground. Imagine a bunch of people on the ground and they're all looking at each other and they're all operating with each other. And then imagine if you were elevating above that and you could see things they can't see. All they can see is what's in front of them and what's beside them and what's behind them. You can see all the pieces on the entire chessboard, right? So what happens is that when you actually understand white supremacy in its entirety, it's literally like rising above, and you can look down at the entire system. And what happens is this: your solutions. You realize the solutions are completely different from what you thought they were. Right, like you really thought that the solution was in a two-dimensional context, but you realize the better solutions are in the third and fourth dimension. This is a mathematical idea. This is mathematical and metaphysical. My wife is very metaphysical. I'm mathematical. My master's degree is in math. And one of the things about mathematics is that the more dimensions that you can operate in, the more flexibility you have to find the most efficient, optimal solution. So what does that mean? That means if I give you more tools to understand the game that you're playing, then you have a better chance of winning the game. Right? The more tools you have, it's like a basketball player. If he thinks that he can score all his points by dribbling with his right hand and shooting layups, but he becomes a better player when you teach him, no, you can also shoot a three-point shot. You can also shoot free throws. You can also go to your left, right? You're giving him more moves. You're making him a higher dimensional player in the game. So for Black folks that want to win in this game of white supremacy, what I want you to understand is that they train you to see yourself in a lower dimensional context. They see you they train you to see yourself as a person who can only solve this very complex multidimensional problem in a 1 or 2 dimensional framework. Okay, in order for me to be successful, I must work for white people. I must go to a white university, go $100,000 in debt, work for a white person, and meet the white person standard. That is my only way to success. So when that gets blocked off, when that glass ceiling hits you upside your head, right? When that's those student loans backing you up, you start to feel trapped. You start to feel unhappy. You start to feel stressed, which is deeply connected to Black mental health problems that we see. A lot of mental health problems in our community occur because of racism. My mental health got a lot better when I did not have to work with my oppressor. Right. So what I'm saying to you is that to really win this game, you got to go to a higher dimension. And a lot of us don't necessarily want to do the work. One of the reasons why I am a big advocate of critical thinking in the community is because critical thinking is what you're going to need in order to be successful in this very complex game. Unfortunately, when they're dumping all this media on you, the studies show that when you're sitting there watching lots of TV, Black people watch more TV than anybody else. I don't know if y'all know that, but when you're watching all this TV, it actually reduces, it turns your prefrontal cortex into mush. So your ability of your prefrontal cortex to engage in critical thinking, for you to formulate your own unique ideas, actually diminishes because you're taking in so much media. So you really are being programmed. And that don't even count social media, radio, Cardi B songs, all this stuff. It doesn't count all that. Right. So let me move on. Do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe button. Also, I have a book called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. You can get a free copy. Just go to allblackeconomics.com. The URL's on the screen. That's allblackeconomics.com. And also, you can actually text the word Boyce to 31996 if you ever want to be notified when I go live. Sometimes I'll send out text notifications. They're expensive, so I don't send out a ton of them. But every now and then I'll send out a text and let you guys know that I'm live. And I hope that it's worth your time. So here's another interesting thing about these universities, and this relates to Nikole Hannah-Jones' situation. And again, once again, I reiterate that I support her completely. I think she totally deserves tenure. It's not even a question. But the issue is, well, why didn't you get it? Well, it's because your university is being run by a bunch of white men who don't necessarily have the same values as you. Now, maybe your white liberal friends can help you get over that hump. She's got a lot of support, behind her back, and I think that's great. But I'm really talking to the people that have a B1 perspective, which says that Black people as a collective have to accept the idea that we are just as smart as white people. We must accept the idea that we can build a university just like they can build a university. And if you don't accept that idea, then that inherently would make you a white supremacist, because you're effectively stating that white people can do something that Black people can't do, which to some extent means you are validating this false idea that white people should be your parents. The question you must ask yourself when you're talking about what happens to that $1.4 trillion a year that we give away in our community, a lot of that $1.4 trillion goes toward these universities that will admit your child just so they can treat your child like crap, just so your child can be a second-class citizen. I mean, look at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in particular, but you could say this about a lot of these universities. I mean, I've taught at the University of Kentucky, Syracuse University, Indiana University, etc. And one thing many of them have in common is that they don't treat their Black students very well. They also have one other thing they have in common is that they drain wealth from the Black community. Your athletes are among your most valuable assets in your community. Your athletes are your multi-trillion-dollar asset. And what they do is they will bring your kid in. They make laws. Again, this might fit into critical race theory. I'm sure a critical race theorist could break this down. The intersection of how laws are. I don't like that term intersection. Let me back that up. How changes in the law can support a white supremacist construct, right? So here's a fun little rope-a-dope they did on y'all, right? They decided, hey, we don't want to pay the Negroes to play basketball, right? Y'all know that when you look at North Carolina Chapel Hill, 9 times out of 10, the reason that the stands are filled up and the TV deals are being made and millions of people are watching on TV is because there's some black kid from the hood who's jumping out of the gym, hitting 3-pointers and scoring lots of points, right? So this asset is coming out of your community, but you're not making any income from that asset because they made a law that said that the athletes cannot get any of that money. They just, I mean, it wasn't like God's law. It wasn't like it makes sense. It's just because they said so. And that's one element of white supremacy is really interesting, is that when you have that power doesn't really care about your feelings. Power doesn't care about having a conscious. Power is like, because I said so. Power can create its own facts. So they're like, yeah, well, we don't want to pay the athletes because, if you give them Negroes money, they're going to blow it anyway. And because we're your parents, we know better than you. So we're going to keep the money for ourselves because we think that you're going to be irresponsible with it. You'd be amazed at some of the ridiculous arguments I heard when I would go on CNN and stuff like that and basically explain why athletes should be paid. To me, it was very simple. It's like, yeah, they're workers. They work every day. They bring in millions of dollars. Like, I've never watched a basketball game so I can watch the coach. So why is the coach making $10 million, $5 million a year, and the athletes are making nothing? Like, that doesn't add up to me, right? Like, it's just common sense. Again, because black people, we're real good at picking out common sense. But then they would come back and they would say, well, these guys, they're young. If you give them a bunch of money, they're going to blow it on rims and strippers and just crazy stuff, right? And so, but really what they're saying is because we said so. That's what they're doing. They're playing the powernomics game on you. They're basically saying they're doing what your mama used to do. Anybody have that problem where when you were a kid and some of y'all were smart kids and you argue with your parents? You ever have an argument with your parents and then they debate with you because they're going to play the game with you, and then suddenly you start winning the argument, like your argument's more valid than theirs, and they start getting pissed off? And because they really just don't want to do it. They really just don't want to take you and your friend to the roller rink. And then what happens? What do they say at the end? What do they say at the end to just trump and shut it all down? They say, what do they say? So type in the chat. Yep. They say, because I said so. Because I said, that's why you can't go, because I said so. And what they're really saying is, look, I'll play this game with you. Like, I'll play this game to make you think that we're equals and that you actually have, that we have a democracy in this house and that you can actually express your opinion. But really, that's all a game. I'm just pretending, right? Because when the push comes to shove, it's because I said so, right? And so white folks kind of do that to you, right? They'll play this game with you like, oh, well, you have freedom of speech and democracy and blah, 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 blah. But watch what happens when their back is against the wall. This is no disrespect to white. Some of y'all might be white in here listening. I promise this is not a hate-filled discussion, but it's true. Think about this, right? They'll let you pass your little bills. They'll let you get your little laws. They'll let you have your little so-called freedom of speech. But the minute you start getting a little bit too uppity, the minute you start really thinking you got real power, they shut you down, right? They're like, we're going to take Farrakhan off Twitter. Well, why are you taking Farrakhan off Twitter? Well, because he's violent. Well, what did he do that's violent? Well, it's because he's violent. Well, what did he kill somebody? Well, no, but he's violent. Well, what is he? He doesn't call for violence. He doesn't speak. What are you talking about? Well, it's because he's violent. That's their way. The translation is Negro because we said so. The translation is because you ain't got no power. The translation is that your daddy never taught you how the world really works, right? The translation is that you really think Pinocchio is a real boy. You really think that the fantasy is consistent with reality, and you don't understand that we run all of this. Like, we're going to always win the game because we gave ourselves the ability to shape the game in whatever way we see fit. Right. So in a way, you can think about white supremacy and whiteness and this need for validation. You can think of it a little bit like cryptocurrency. Right. Now, why would I say that? Well, you think about cryptocurrency, right? Most crypto doesn't have any inherent value. In fact, most currency has no value, actually, until you give it value. Right. So cryptocurrency, if I create a new cryptocurrency, it has no value. Like, I could create a 10 billion Boyce coins and then tell you, yeah, I think they're worth about $1. So I'm a billionaire because I got 10 billion Boyce coins, right? Now, if I can't convince you that the Boyce coin has value, then that's obviously an illusion, right? But when you create a cryptocurrency, what happens if you get a bunch of people to believe in it, right? Like Dogecoin. Like you guys we've talked about this, right? What is the fundamental value, like the fundamental economic value, according to economic theory? What is the fundamental value of a Dogecoin? Somebody type in the chat. Somebody type in the chat. The value of Dogecoin is zero. It's nothing. It's goose eggs. Like, and even the founders were like, "This is a joke. We took a picture of a dog and then pretended to create a currency, and yeah, we gave ourselves an unlimited supply, right? But then people started believing in Dogecoin, right? People really believe in it, and I'm not dissing you. If you love Dogecoin, don't get me wrong. I support you. I hope you make your money, right? But the thing is that the value from Dogecoin. Pay attention. Ride with me on this analogy here. I need y'all to understand where I'm coming from. The value of Dogecoin grew because people started to believe in Dogecoin. People started to believe in it. People started saying Dogecoin to the moon. We love Dogecoin, right? So suddenly value gets created because you start to believe in something, right? And so effectively, what happens is that a currency tends to have value when it has what is called network effects, meaning that you have a network of people who believe that that thing has value. It's like when somebody asked Tinkerbell in what was it? Not Pinocchio, the little Peter Pan. When they asked Tinkerbell, do fairies exist? And Tinkerbell said, yeah, fairies exist if you believe in them, right? If you believe in the fairies, then they're real. If you don't believe in them, then they're not real, right? So for white supremacy, in a way, it has currency, right? Validation from white people has currency for you because you believe it's real. Because you believe in that. Like, you believe in the God of white supremacy. That's why you spend so much of your life trying to get degrees from big white universities. That's why you take pride and call your mama proudly when you get an award from white people, something that was previously worthless, like the Oscars or the Grammys, right? They literally, I told you guys to read that book, How the Jews Invented Hollywood, and they literally explained how they created the Oscars. The people that had money created the Oscars because they didn't want to actually pay more money. They said, let's just give them some stupid award. They need their ego stroked. They need validation. So we'll just create this stupid award, and then they won't ask for more money because we'll just give them an award instead, right? So it was kind of a mind hump, if you will. I'm trying not to cuss today, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So that's why you're so proud when you have family members. Pay attention. How many of you have a family where if you say you're going to start a business, they won't support you, they won't be happy for you, they're going to look at you like you're stupid. But if you tell them you got a good job, you tell them that some white man like gave you a good job and a promotion and gave you the corner office and a fancy title, oh, that is like gold. Am I right or am I right? How many of y'all got families like that, right? And so what happens is that this white approval is like a cryptocurrency. And the person who creates the currency that has value becomes the richest person in the room. Because if I convince you that a Boyce coin is worth $1, and I say I issued myself 10 billion Boyce coins, and that's the only currency that matters, then you're going to give me a lot of power because you're going to be coming begging me, praying to me, getting on your knees, begging me for more Boyce coins because you don't see value anywhere else. So with white sort of validation from these institutions, like I got tenure from this university, even though they're racist, they acknowledge me, or this company, even though they won't hire any black people except me, they gave me an award or whatever, right? And I'm not dissing that, right? Some of you have those awards and I want you to be proud of that, but I want you to understand that that's all arbitrary, that's all, a lot of that is kind of made up, right? Even the fact that she made this Pulitzer or got this Pulitzer Prize, it doesn't mean she's not good at what she does, but she was good at what she did even without the award. Right? The Pulitzer was created. Somebody created that. The same way somebody creates a cryptocurrency, they created the Pulitzer. They named it after Joseph Pulitzer, and they said, oh, this means something. And everyone said, okay, yeah, we all have a network of people that think it means something. But there are people out here that don't give a damn about a Pulitzer. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm going to evaluate you on whether or not I think you're good at your job. And if you're good, it doesn't matter if you have a Pulitzer or not. Right? Because over here, we don't seek, people ask me all the time, they say, well, does the Black Business School have accreditation from the accrediting agencies? And I said, no, we don't seek accreditation. We give accreditations because we are more qualified to build Black wealth than any of the people who might want to give us a credit. You think that we as independent entities seeking to build Black wealth are going to lean on entities that have proven their inability to build Black wealth and look to them for validation and accreditation? That would be crazy. If you're trying to be, if you're trying to win an NBA championship, why would you go to the guy who lost every game and ask him to tell you if you're a good basketball player? You don't need that, right? So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to tell you is that the same way that you buy into this sort of white validation, like a cryptocurrency that was created by someone else, and you beg for it, like you're sort of hoping and you feel like when they give that to you, that you're somehow a better person, or you go to church and you pray for it or whatever, you pray for the job, or you're hoping that they'll acknowledge you in some way. What you're doing, unfortunately, is you are an unwilling participant in the strengthening of white supremacy. Right. So I'm not telling you not to go to these schools. I'm not telling you that there isn't something valuable your kid can learn at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I'm not telling you that you got to go quit your job at Google right away. What I'm telling you is that there's nothing that they've ever created that is better than what you could create on your own. And the other thing, too, is that it's hard for energy to be in two places at once. It's hard for your attention to be in two places at once. So because you're spending so much energy validating and developing and supporting their institutions, you're not putting energy developing your own. So I'm going to ask you guys a yes or no question. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that if we invested our own money in our own institutions, if we really became focused on, this is where the B1 philosophy kind of deviates from, those in academia. Some of my colleagues in academia, they don't get me. They think I'm a crazy Negro. But then when I show them I made $10 million, they kind of pay more attention. But they really think they wouldn't want to be my friend if I didn't have money and power. They would still call me a crazy Negro. And I totally get that. I don't give a shit. Right. I'm talking to you. So let me ask you this. In the B1 philosophy, do you think that if we as a community were investing our own resources into developing our own institutions, do you think that we could pull that off? Give me a yes or no. Do you think we could do it, or do you think that only white people know how to build universities? And I'm talking about brick and mortar buildings. Remember, you had ancestors who were just freed from slavery 2 weeks ago who were educating their own kids. Did y'all know this? I mean, everybody talking about how hard it is to build a school and all that. It ain't hard. You had ancestors that had no money, but they had desire. They saw their worth. And honestly, they had no other choice. So next thing you know, they got a little building. They bought in the babies, they had a couple books, and they read to the babies, and they made sure the babies had a good education. And they educated those kids better than any white public school out here right now. 2, let me ask you another question. Do you think that we are qualified to educate our own kids? Do you think that we're qualified? Do you think that we have enough educators in our community who could educate Black children at an effective level as well, if not better, than white people do? Give me a yes or no. Yes or no. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that we could start our own businesses? Do you think that we could train our children across the board, millions of them, millions and millions of kids, to start businesses and to build wealth, become investors, etc.? We're doing this already. You're part of a revolution right now, whether you know it or not. You are part of Black history, whether you know it or not. When you get older, your grandchildren are going to talk to you and ask you what it was like to be around during this particular era. This is one of the golden eras of Black economic power. I want you to know that. I need you to know this right now, so that when people finally start acknowledging it, you'll say, yeah, I was a part of that. And I knew in the moment what it was. You're not going to be one of those people that says, well, I didn't know when we were there. We were just trying to be crazy kids. No. I'm telling you right now. Because I'm trying to live on that fifth dimension. I'm looking from above and I'm seeing what we got going on right here. Ain't nothing a white man ever created for Black people in the history of all mankind that matches what we got going on right here. We reach 1 million Black people a week, and we have taught 1 million Black people how to invest. And millions of you right now, give me a yes in the chat if your children are on better economic footing than you were at their age because of what you're teaching them. Give me a yes in the chat if you've seen your family, not just your bank account, but your family and your future generations and your seed better off now than you were at that age, than your parents were at that age, than your grandparents were at that age. You are doing it. You're getting it done. Like, we're doing this, right? This is not a theory. This is not fantasy. This is not something I hope will happen. This is happening, right? So I want you to be excited about it because, man, this is beautiful. This is so awesome. I swear to God, I could die tomorrow. I would have zero regrets. 10, 15 years ago, I wasn't done yet. I had work to do. I had things I wanted to get out there. Things I want to. It's done. The ball is rolling, right? So I want you to be proud of that. I want you to be really proud of that and to see it for what it is and to acknowledge it and to really own it, because the thing is that they get you thinking like, oh, well, you're not mainstream, you're not you're not working for a white company and you're not on white people's TV, CNN isn't talking about it, so it's not that important. See, I don't want you, please don't be the black people who need MSNBC to acknowledge what's happening for you to see the relevance of what's happening. Stop that. Stop waiting for them to tell you about the important things that are happening in your community when you're right in the middle of it. You're creating it. You're the manifester in this. You're the manifester. You are the God inside of you is creating all of this. You don't need nobody's permission. All that's going to happen is eventually they're going to catch up and notice, but they're noticing now, but you don't need anybody's validation. You don't need anybody to acknowledge it. Nobody has to see it for you to see it. I need you to see it. Trust your own eyes. So here's what I'm going to end with. I think hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. If you haven't done it yet, please do that. Very, very important. And also, like I said, if you want a free copy of my book, go to allblackeconomics.com. Or also, I'm going to put my Twitter up here so you can follow me on Twitter if you want to converse on Twitter. I got to go. The girls are home, so I'm going to go spend time with my daughters. But here's what we need as black people. And when we're done talking about Nicole Hannah-Jones, I think I made it clear. I support her. Screw those people at UNC. What they're doing is wrong. What they're doing is racist. They're just pretty much being white. White people being white. That's pretty much what they do with these institutions. Let's move on. I want to move to another level in this. I believe that black people need a different kind of education. I believe that we need a type of education that reflects our values. I think we need a type of education that reflects who we are and what our children need to know. A lot of universities, unfortunately, have become white supremacist training programs. They become white supremacist training programs. Why do I say that? Well, because when you go to that school and you go $100,000 in debt, they're going to train you on all the things that match their values, right? And what they believe. And then you're going to go take that piece of paper and you're going to, like a permission slip, and you're going to go get referred to some white guy that you can work for the rest of your life. You'll work for him until you die and maybe even never repay the student loan debt completely. We don't need that. We don't need more people trained to go work for white people. That part has already been on lock. You've made your contribution to America. You've given America everything you've got. Now I would like for us to give something to ourselves. All of our children have to be trained to be builders. All of our children have to be trained to value themselves based on what you're contributing to the community. The Chinese do this. The Chinese started doing this. And this is what led to their flip. 50 years ago, the Chinese economy was a complete joke. Nobody respected China. Now China is the most powerful nation on the planet, right? And why is that? Well, because they shifted their values. They started taking on the same way we have a B1 philosophy. They took on a C1 philosophy. They said that the only way we're going to measure your worth is what you're giving to China. How are you contributing to the development of China? What institutions are you supporting or building in China? What resources are you bringing back to China? And being Chinese is the coolest thing in the world. And being a Chinaman in China is the coolest thing. Being a Chinaman in Europe is okay, sure. Being a Chinaman in Africa or the United States is fine, sure, go do that. But if you're a Chinaman in China and you're building China, or you're going to other places to bring resources back home to China, then that's where it's at. That's what makes you valuable. That's what makes you worthy. That's how we measure you as a quality citizen. So I think that black people have to do the same thing. I think that instead of giving away that 1.4 trillion that you're donating every year to other communities, I think that needs to be turned back inward. That comes through the support of black businesses. It comes through educating your children in black spaces with black teachers and black run institutions. I think it comes back to valuing your own sources of validation instead of looking for validation elsewhere. Yesterday on the podcast, I had a brother on here by the name of John Boyd. I want you to go look up John Boyd. His family, he has 9 children. John's family they're all performers, and his daughter Victory Boyd has now become one of the most famous singers in the country. She's extremely good. She wrote 3 songs on Kanye West's last album. That's how good she is, and she's an amazing singer. Look up Victory Boyd. And one thing that John mentioned that I thought was fascinating is I said, how did you get all your kids to bring all their talents together and create something amazing together? The group's called Infinity Song. And he said, the first thing I did was I made sure that I educated my own kids. He said, I want my voice to be the dominant voice in their head. I'm not letting somebody else's values come in and distort or confuse my children. right? And Dr. Claude Anderson, who was on here a few days ago, who wrote Powernomics, one of the most impactful economic books of all time. Ice Cube was shouting out Powernomics during the election. Kanye West shouted out Powernomics. Charlemagne the God, Tiffany Haddish, Usher, like all these people are shouting out Powernomics because they love the philosophy. It makes sense. It adds up, right? And one thing Dr. Anderson mentioned to you guys is very important to understand is that you are in a culture war. He said you are in a culture war. So unfortunately, despite the fact that you can appreciate your white allies all day long, but you must understand that sometimes they come with cultural baggage that is not your baggage. And I'm not saying that you can't adopt some of that cultural baggage. I'm not saying that you can't appreciate some of those ideas. But there's a big difference between Black ideas shifting because Black people have originated that discussion versus Black ideas shifting because white people have initiated that discussion. You don't want your thinking to be imperialized and colonialized because it's going to be distracted and distorted and diluted to the point where even your best contributors will have nothing to contribute to the Black community. So that's my point on this issue. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I see. I personally think that when you have qualified Black people that get denied opportunities by white-run institutions, that is a reminder of the importance of developing your own institutions, because then you can reward people who reflect your own values, because we're playing a game of Powernomics, whether you like it or not. So it's time for Black folks to actually focus on power, and all this other stuff that happened since 1968. We got to move past that paradigm. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. And also, if you guys ever want to take a look at the financial workbooks and flashcards we have in the Black Business School for Kids, feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com. We have workbooks, flashcards, all kinds of stuff. So feel free to go take a look. They're designed by Black educators, and I think they'll help you in your quest to educate your own kids, whatever you're seeking to do. So hit the thumbs up button on your way out, share, subscribe. I'm out of here, guys. I will see you soon. Love you. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV.